Well, we have one more speaker. This being Constitution Day, it is highly appropriate that Judge Michael Warren be with us. Judge Warren has served on the Oakland County Circuit Court since 2002, currently is the presiding judge of the court's Civil and Criminal Division. He serves on a number of nonprofit education-related boards of trustees and is a former member of Michigan's State Board of Education. And it might be very interesting to note on this next part that like so many good ideas, this one comes from a woman. But even more so, as Harris Wofford was pointing out today, the importance of listening to youth. Judge Warren had the very good sense to listen to his own daughter, who had a really fascinating idea to do something about this confluence of 9/11 and Constitution Day and our own vast ignorance about our beginnings as a nation. And she suggested Patriot Week, to begin on September 11th, conclude on September 17th. And today, that is exactly what Judge Warren is going to be talking about. They've just got Patriot Week going last year, was it not? And already it is beginning to take on the characteristics of a Saturn V rocket blasting off. So Judge Warren will be here to talk about Patriot Week, seeking to renew America's spirit by celebrating the first principles, the Founding Fathers, and other patriots. Michael.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands that connect them to another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitles them, a due respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes that impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that when any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to establish new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Those words from the Declaration of Independence were revolutionary in 1776, and they remain revolutionary today. And despite all the controversy about America and our role on the world stage, and remember, America has always been controversial on the world stage, we remain a beacon of hope, a torch of liberty, for billions of people across the world. Most people in the world live in countries that they wish their country could be more like ours. Some people are so disgusted with their country, they'd rather just leave and come live here. And some people despise us so much, they're willing to commit suicide just they have the opportunity to slay our innocent civilians. And whether you love us or hate us, they're all motivated by those founding first principles that are articulated in the Declaration of Independence and embedded in our Constitution. The rule of law, equality, unalienable rights, the social compact, limited government, and the right to alter or abolish an oppressive government. Now we're here to celebrate presidents, and so I've heard a lot of presidents named, and I missed some of the sections, so I apologize if Abraham Lincoln has been addressed extensively. But I want to quote him when he was at the Young Men's Lyceum of Springfield, Illinois, well before he was president. And he stated that if we were going to have a problem as a country surviving, that it would have to come from within. And this is what he said. At what point then is what point then is the approach of danger to be expected? I answer, if ever to reach us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from overbroad. If destruction be our lot, we ourselves must be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. Now, his words have been proven true. We survived all overseas threats. We have survived Nazi Germany. We have survived the Tsar and the Commissar. We won the Cold War without firing a shot. But all the freedoms and liberties that we have been able to secure for ourselves are at grave risk if we don't keep it alive in our minds and our hearts. Unlike other places in the world, where what defined the country, for example, was the language or the culture or the tradition or where the Alps stopped or where the Rhine River flowed, America was founded on our founding first principles. That's what binds us and unites us. Not those other arbitrary factors, but ideas. Which means that you can't inherit it when someone is born. As Ronald Reagan said, the spirit of America is not passed on in the genetic code. It has to be passed on through learning and belief. And we have done an exceedingly poor job. I'm so glad to be here because Grand Valley is on the cutting edge of fighting against this. But we have done an exceedingly poor job of remembering our founding, of remembering our unique principles. And studies after studies reveal that our K through 12 students are performing abysmally, and that's a word used by someone that's in charge of the testing, okay, the national test. We have been performing abysmally in civics and in history. And studies show that our general public is downright ignorant of basic things, like the separation of powers. Less than half of the people can identify the three branches of government. 99% of 8th graders did not know why it was important that the Berlin Wall fell. These are recent studies, and I could go on, and I've written a book, and the book has all the statistics about where we are as a nation. And it's a very scary place, because it is up to us to ensure our liberty by learning about what makes us free and pass it on to the next generation. And we're fools to think that we can survive as a free people if we don't know that. And this is self-inflicted. Osama bin Laden did not launch an amnesia bomb over America and obliterate our history and civics. But we've done it to ourselves. As Lincoln said, we're our own greatest threat. Now, as the wonderful introduction mentioned, I decided it was time to do something about this, so I wrote the book. But I also wanted to do something more, and I didn't know what. And I was sitting one day at lunch with my daughter, who was 10 at the time, and had been remarking about our civic holidays. Now, I happen to be an adult convert to Catholicism. Believe it or not, the Holy Ghost found me in Ann Arbor, Michigan in law school. And so I have a real appreciation for the liturgical calendar. We have Pentecost and Advent, and Good Friday and Easter, and all the great religions have a liturgical calendar. Hindus, Judaism, Islam, Protestantism, obviously, they all have this liturgical calendar. Why? Because it forces you to stop, get away from the hustle bustle of the day, and spend time on first things first. It renews your spirit. And America used to have a civic calendar. We had Washington's birthday, Lincoln's birthday, Memorial Day, Independence Day. It was not July 4th, it was Independence Day. Thanksgiving, Armistice Day. Well, and they were important days. John Adams wrote, right after the Declaration of Independence was approved, wrote to Abigail, "This day will be forever remembered in American history. There will be fireworks and parades and bonfires and speeches from one end of the continent, from now and forevermore." And Adams, being the genius he was right. But he also wrote, "This should be a solemn day of devotion for the blessings of liberty." Now, I don't know about you, but the last time I had a hot dog at a July 4th, a particularly solemn occasion. We have stripped all of our civic holidays of their true meaning. Washington's birthday, and I have a longer speech, and I'm not going to give it to you because we're at the end of the day, but Washington's birthday really meant something because Washington was the indispensable man. And children learned about him and his remarkable journey from when he was in the Battle of the Wilderness, sparking the French and Indian War, all the way to when he stepped down and George III declared that he was the greatest character of the age. And we don't hear much about that anymore because we've taken Washington's birthday, father of our country and the great emancipator, and squeeze them together to celebrate Franklin Pierce and Benjamin Harrison with the same vigor as those two, so that we can have carpet sales and appliance discounts. Okay, that's what we've come to. I was shocked when I saw the Nike ad that said, Happy Memorial Day. That's like Happy Yom Kippur. That doesn't compute. So that's what we've done. We've destroyed them. And I was actually having this conversation with my daughter Leah. And Leah said, Dad, that's wrong. We got to do something about it. We can't sit by and let this happen. We got to do something. I said, okay, we'll figure something out. I happened to have been reading an article about Kwanzaa. Now Kwanzaa, I bet you know because you're a pretty educated crowd, but a lot of people think it is a African holiday, ancient, transported over to America by the slaves. No, it was invented in the 1960s by a professor in California. He wanted to have an African American holiday. He looked at the menorah. There's seven candles. He said, we're going to take these we're going to have 7 days. We're going to light a candle each day. We're going to call each day a pillar or a virtue or a value. We're going to give it a Swahili term, and we're going to celebrate this. And it's fine. It's a great holiday. A lot of people celebrate it. It's very helpful for them. Builds up a lot of character. But I was reading this article, and I said, Leah, he did that. Can't we do something? She said, yes, we ought to do a week too, Dad. And so we started talking about it, and we looked at the calendar and realized that September 11th through September 17th is a 7-day period. So we copied Kwanzaa's copying of Judaism, just so that there's no originality here other than making it about America. And each day we celebrate a founding first principle, like the rule of law, inalienable rights, limited government, the social compact. Key patriots that made that come alive in America, like Washington, Jefferson, and Madison. But we also celebrate, and hearing the speeches, I wonder if Carroll and Benjamin Franklin should be added, but right now they're not in there. But also key documents, so the people that made those things come alive. Washington for the social compact. He presided over the Constitutional Convention. Madison for limited government. Jefferson for inalienable rights. We also celebrate racial equality and gender equality, because the great history of America, we've taken those founding first principles which we had in breach and made and fought to make them come true, those aspirational goals. So we have Frederick Douglass, and we have Martin Luther King Jr., and we have Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And then the key documents and speeches which made those things come alive, like the Gettysburg Address, the Emancipation Proclamation, the sentiments of the New York, now I'm messing it up, the Elizabeth Cady Stanton's great speech of the Seneca Falls Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions. And then we celebrate historical flags, because my daughter's a genius, and she said, Dad, we need to have kids get excited. We should have fireworks. I said, honey, fireworks are expensive, and it's kind of taken. Just, okay, fine, well, we need flags to get the kids excited. You know what? There's a bunch of interesting historical flags. So here's one flag. And I challenge somebody to tell me what this flag is from. Anybody know? I'm looking at the women in particular. Okay. This was done by the National Women's Party. It was used when they marched in their rallies for women's suffrage. This was their symbol. And if you've been around from the early 1900s, this would have been absolutely recognizable. It was their symbol. And every time a state ratified the suffrage amendment, the 19th Amendment, they sewed in a star. And when it was ratified, the big picture on the newspapers is of Alice Walker sewing in the rest of the stars. And then they unfurled it over the headquarters in Washington, D.C. But we have a lot of interesting flags. And it really does get the kids excited, and actually I've gotten a lot of adults get excited by the flags. Now we have an excuse to celebrate these very interesting flags from our history, like the Gadsden flag, the Don't Tread on Me flag, the Betsy Ross flag, the flag that flew over Fort Sumter, etc. Now, you might say, well, that's kind of an interesting idea. Where has it gone? In 2009, the State Senate of Michigan adopted a resolution, a Patriot Week resolution, endorsing it and encouraging schools, colleges, universities to adopt it. And we had about 20 different organizations and groups do it last year. I have completely lost count this year. We have the House and the Senate. Now, the House is a Democrat institution. The Senate is a Republican institution. If you know anything about Michigan politics, you know it's very rare for those two to agree on anything, and they have passed Patriot Week resolutions. We had University of Michigan, Oakland University, Cooley Law School, 2 different campuses this year participating. We had many K through 12 schools, senior living communities, senior centers, Rotary clubs, Kiwanuses, a lot of ways to get involved. And the goal this year, this upcoming year, I hope I'm not cursing myself, is to get the new governor to sign a law to recognize Patriot Week, and whoever that may be, and to continue to spread this through all the universities and nonprofit groups, organizations, K through 12 as much as we can. We have activities in New York, in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Ohio, many different activities across the country starting. Most of them are through schools, but we definitely want to spread it beyond that. Now, it's important that we do that because, as I stated before, our freedom and liberty is something that will only survive when people like you fight for it every day. Sounds maybe it's like it's a cliche, but it is true that our freedom and liberty is completely dependent upon having informed, active citizens rooted in our founding first principles who are willing to go out and make sure that this generation and future generations understand that. The course of human history is completely against America. We are the exception. We are that city on a hill that is a torch of liberty that most of human history has been trying from before and today to blacken out. And the only way that we can survive is to have folks like you interested and engaged. I have a table outside with the book and with a sign-up sheet and brochures for Patriot Week. We would love to have you get involved and continue to spread the activity across the country. I do believe personally, based on the literature I've read, that our country really is at a tipping point. And we've got a little bit of time to make sure that our republic can survive, but only a little bit of time. And the only way that that will happen is to have folks like you engaged in the process to fight for our freedom and liberty. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.